Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I'm so glad you're here because today we're zooming in on a piece of machinery that is literally working away right inside your chest at this very second. Now, you might just think of the human heart as, a simple organ, but today we're totally reframing that. We're going to look at the heart as this incredibly fascinating, super efficient, dual action machine. It's an absolute marvel of natural engineering, and by the end of this, you're going to have a crystal clear picture of exactly how it keeps you alive every single second of the day. Let's get into it. To make sense of this complex machine, we're going to follow a simple four-step roadmap. First, we'll look at the ultimate double pump. Then, we'll trace the path of blood flow. Third, we'll break down the mechanical pumping cycle. And finally, we'll explore the electrical wiring system. All right, starting with part one, the ultimate double pump, where we've got two distinct loops working together. So, when we call the heart a double pump, we're not just throwing around a fun metaphor. It literally operates as two completely separate pumping systems built right into one single muscular structure. Think of it like a building divided into four distinct rooms, continuously managing two entirely separate but perfectly synchronized loops of fluid. And the contrast between these two main loops is just fascinating. On one side, you've got pulmonary circulation. This is your localized, lung-focused route. Its one and only job is to shoot blood directly over to the lungs to pick up fresh oxygen. Then, on the flip side, you have systemic circulation. Now, this is the massive, heavy-duty route. It takes that freshly oxygenated blood and pumps it out to the entire rest of your body. So one pump is for the lungs, and the other pump is for everything else. And making both of those systems possible comes down to a crucial number, 4. Your heart has exactly 4 physical chambers acting as the structural framework for this whole double pump setup. You've got the right atrium and right ventricle handling the pulmonary side of things, and then the left atrium and left ventricle running that massive systemic side. These 4 chambers are just continuously circulating blood. And there's this thick, muscular wall called the septum that makes sure these two systems never ever accidentally mix their cargo. It's just a brilliant design for separated efficiency. Moving right along to part 2, the path of blood flow. This is our step-by-step journey. Okay, so we've got the architecture down. Now let's follow the actual plumbing. We're going to trace the hero's journey of just a single drop of blood as it navigates through these 4 chambers. We'll start over on the right side. Step 1, deoxygenated, oxygen-poor blood comes back from a hard day's work out in the body. It flows in through 2 huge veins, the superior vena cava bringing blood from the upper body and the inferior vena cava bringing it from the lower body, and it completely fills up the right atrium. Then, step 2, the right atrium contracts, squeezing that blood down through this biological doorway called the tricuspid valve right into the right ventricle. Step 3, the right ventricle forcefully contracts, pushing this oxygen-poor blood through the pulmonary valve and straight into the pulmonary artery. This artery quickly splits off, sending the blood to both of your lungs. And that is exactly where the magic happens. Carbon dioxide gets swapped out for fresh, life-giving oxygen. All right, so now the blood is totally oxygen-rich, but it needs to get back to the heart to be distributed, right? So step 4, it travels from the lungs through the pulmonary veins and just pours right into the left atrium. Step 5, the left atrium contracts, shoving that fresh blood through the mitral, also known as the bicuspid valve, and into the left ventricle. Now pay close attention to step 6 here. The left ventricle contracts with just immense force, blasting this oxygenated blood through the aortic valve and into the aorta, which is the main artery distributing blood to all your body's tissues. And here's a cool fact, because the left ventricle has this monumental job of pumping blood to your entire body, from your head all the way down to your toes, this specific chamber actually has the thickest muscular wall of all 4 rooms. It is, without a doubt, the absolute powerhouse of the heart. Which brings us to part 3, the mechanical pumping cycle. This is how the heart physically moves the blood. So we know the path the blood takes, but how exactly does the heart physically force it along that path? Well, let's zoom out from the plumbing and look at the actual mechanics propelling this fluid forward. It all boils down to a continuous 2-part rhythm, diastole and systole. Think of diastole as the deeply relaxed filling phase. The heart muscle physically relaxes, letting those 4 chambers gently expand and fill completely up with blood. Then, right after that relaxation, comes systole. This is the active, high-energy pumping phase. The heart muscle sharply and forcefully contracts to shoot that blood out of the chambers and into the arteries. So it's relax and fill, contract and push, diastole, systole. Just a continuous mechanical expansion and compression happening over and over and over again. But when you look at this incredibly precise sequence of relaxing and contracting, filling and pumping, you really have to wonder, what's actually telling the muscle to do this? What exactly synchronizes this continuous movement so the atria and the ventricles aren't just, squeezing at random? That takes us to our final section, part 4, the electrical wiring system, the heart's natural pacemakers. See, behind all the mechanical plumbing and thick muscular walls, there's actually an intrinsic electrical conduction system. This is basically the hidden brain of the heart. It's the internal wiring, flawlessly coordinating every single beat. Let's break down how this brilliant system works. It all kicks off with the sinoatrial, or SA, node. Located right in the right atrium, this is your heart's built-in natural pacemaker. It fires off a sharp electrical signal that acts like a starting gun, making both the left and right atria contract at the exact same time. But here is where the system gets truly genius. That electrical signal travels down to the atrioventricular, or AV node. Now, the AV node receives this impulse, but it doesn't just pass it on right away. It actively delays the signal for just a tiny microsecond. Why? Well, to give the lower chambers, the ventricles, enough time to completely fill up with blood before they're told to squeeze. It's absolutely crucial. After that perfect life-saving delay, the impulse shoots down these specialized pathways called bundle branches and Purkinje fibers, triggering both ventricles to powerfully contract together. So what's the big takeaway here? Your heart is so much more than just a simple muscle. It's this autonomous marvel of electrical and mechanical synchronization. I mean, it generates its own electrical currents, carefully delays its own signals, and triggers these massive mechanical contractions to push two totally different looks of fluid at the same time. And it's doing all of this flawlessly inside your chest right now. It truly is the ultimate double pump. But it does make you think, if our heart relies on this highly precise internal wiring to keep us alive, what happens when those circuits cross or misfire? And how do modern pacemakers manage to literally hack this biological mainframe? Well, that is a wildly fascinating topic for another day. Until then, thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.